You hear on Talk Radio
All
680
right, folks, here we go,
WCBM
my
and
friends.
WCBM.com are not necessarily those of the owners, management, employers, and advertisers of WCBM.
But they should be.
But they should be.
The Bob Paff Show is brought to you by Bob Paff.
Lynn, folks, if I don't acknowledge you, it's because I'm on the air. I'm not being rude. I'll give you a wave. But if I don't talk to you, it's because I'm on the air.
This
All right,
is
here we
Talk
go.
Radio
Here we
680
go, folks.
WCBM and worldwide at WCBM.com. It's time now for the Bob Paff Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to, and thank you for joining me on the Bob Paff Show. It is May 22nd. What's the big deal about May 22nd? I got to tell you, it's my baby girl's 18th birthday, so she's not listening. My kids, it's really funny because my kids. I'm just dad, and they don't acknowledge me as a talk show host or an author, as a speaker, or the guy that played a congressman on House of Cards. So I played a New York congressman on House of Cards. Not all of you know that. Season 2 of House of Cards. I'm in New York. New York's always a bad word these days. We're going to talk about New York in a little bit, but it is my daughter Isabel's 18th birthday, and our family is getting together. After this, I'm going to be flying out of the studio so we can all get together and celebrate. She's my youngest daughter, and she's the youngest of my 6 children, and we all love her to death. She's really a special kid. She's going to do a lot of great things in this world, and we're super proud of her. And anybody else that's celebrating a May 22nd birthday, we wish you a happy birthday. We've got a great show for you tonight. It's just me here in the studio with you. So I hope that's okay. I've got Scott Collier from Dundalk TV. I didn't mean to exclude Scott, but he's off camera here, and he's videoing this, and so you're going to be able to see it again. And as far as the video, we're in discussions to really bring this to television, which is what I want to do. I want to, for lack of a better expression, take this show on the road. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and now is the time. And why is it the time? Well, it's time to reopen this country. It's time to reopen Maryland. It's time to reopen Baltimore County. Very few of you probably know that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Arkansas, the governor, his name is, what is the governor's name? Asa Hutchinson, the governor of Arkansas. Arkansas never closed down. And Arkansas was not, I read stuff on social media, and here's what bothers me. I'll hear people say, for example, they talk about Florida. And I think Rick DeSantis has done an exemplary job in Florida. Let's share some Florida numbers. In Florida, they've had, I think it's just a little bit more than 2,000 deaths in the entire state. And Florida's got about 20 to 22 million people. It's bigger than New York in terms of the people. New York of the South, or whatever you want to call it. The state of New York has over 6,000 deaths in nursing homes alone. Let me repeat that. In nursing homes alone, the state of New York has over 6,000 deaths, while the entire state of Florida has 2,000. So a lot of people, but it's upsetting because I see a lot of things from folks out there on social media who say, oh, you're opening too soon, and we're just sitting back and waiting to see the numbers go up in another month or so. And guess what, folks? They didn't go up. They didn't go up in Georgia. They didn't go up in Texas. Tim Mitchell's weighing in. And Tim, you're right. One out of every 5 people in the state of Florida is over the age of 65. And so you've got a population that's very elderly, and Tim Mitchell's weighing in here on Facebook Live. What did Governor DeSantis do? I think he was really the model. And if you don't believe me, because I know a lot of you love Fauci and Dr. Birx, and with all due respect, but it was Deborah Birx who really pointed out, Dr. Deborah Birx, who said Florida has really created, the Florida Department of Health has created the perfect sort of model for everybody else to follow. And Governor DeSantis, he realized that there are a lot of elderly people. I just said 1 out of every 5 people in Florida is over the age of 65. My dear, beloved abuelitos, Ernie and Tina, are down there in Deltona in Central Florida, and they're in their 70s. And so, folks, when I say these things to you, I'm aware of what's going on with the virus. I take it seriously. I will tell you this. I'm a healthy guy. Scott's sitting here looking at me. It's the first time we met. I'm a pretty healthy looking guy, right? Healthy guy. I've not been sick, and I don't know anybody who's been sick. I really don't. So what I think, this government, and I'm shocked. I pick up the newspaper and I see cars lining up, or I see people with, you might as well be wearing a hazmat suit, in my opinion. They have masks on and they have those shields that come up to their heads. I've stood in the grocery store lines with my next door neighbor and not recognized them. But the problem I have, and again, these are my personal opinions, and I've never wavered from them. The government and the media really instilled fear in everyone. Do what we say, not necessarily as we do, because a lot of them were not practicing what they were telling you that you needed to do. And so it's amazing to me. So if I asked you, what did you learn? And you can call me and you can tell me at 410-922-6680. It's a great question for our listeners tonight. What did you learn from this virus? What did you learn from this shutdown, from this shut in, from being told by the government what to do? What did you learn through this whole thing? And I'll tell you what, was never scared. I've told everybody before, bearing a child is the worst pain that you'll ever have in your life. And if the good Lord wants to take me out because of a virus, then I guess it was meant to be. I guess it was in my cards. But I've never spent a day in fear. What I've spent a day looking at, Tammy, you're right, the media blew this completely out of proportion. Somebody's weighing in here. You know, what I've looked at is how people, did all of you see, those of you who live in the Baltimore area, everybody lining up at the Timonium Fairgrounds to get their swab or whatever it is they were doing to be tested, I suppose, and they had to shut it down. I think they did about maybe 1,000 tests or so, and then they had to shut that whole thing down. But really, I'm going to say it, I might upset you. The sort of herd mentality of people that were lining up to get their test, who are living in fear. The ones I really don't understand, and nobody's really been able to convince me why. I can't even breathe with that mask on my face. When I go into my local grocery store, I put it on, they tease me, I put it on just before I walk in the second. There are a lot of people that stand on the sidewalk with it on. I put it on the second I walk in the door, and I take it off the second I leave. But, you know, it's just amazing to me, the people driving alone. You know what I'm going to say here, don't you? They're driving alone in their cars, wearing masks and gloves in some cases. The latest from the CDC, if you haven't seen this, let me enlighten you. The CDC came out this week and they said that this virus does not live on surfaces. And so everywhere we go, including the station, when I come in to do my show at night, you know, Brian's kind enough to say, hey, Bob, there are wipes and we've swabbed everything down and we've done this and we've done that. Now the CDC comes back and says, there's no reason to do that. You don't need to do that. Let me remind those of you, and if you're comfortable wearing the mask, God bless you, because I really feel like it has become the new fashion statement. Am I wrong? You see them with Orioles and you see them with the Ravens. I think my daughter has one that's Burberry. Now my daughter has to wear one because she works for a local grocery store and she has to wear one. But now we've got designer masks. You know, we've got masks with little characters and animals and all these kind of things. Somebody's making a lot of money, not only selling masks, but selling tests and kits and all these things, and ventilators. Let's not forget, you heard it right on the show, General Motors got a $500 million contract to make ventilators for the United States of America. Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, who was pleading and begging and borrowing, he didn't have enough, then had too many. And now, by the way, if you're not following the governor of New York, and I was, you know, never really had a lot to do with him. I don't live in New York. I spent a lot of time in New York. I have family and friends in New York. I love New York. I love the city. But New York's a big state. A lot of you people, when you hear New York, you all think the city. But New York is huge. If you live upstate New York, you're probably not even getting to the city. If you're in Syracuse or Albany or any of those places way up north, you're not even getting down into the city. So I never had a lot to do with Andrew Cuomo. But the showboating that went on was unbelievable. Folks, I'm rambling on here. I'm fired up. Thank you all for joining me. You're listening to the Bob Paff Show, Live Talk Radio, WCBM. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back in a little bit.